worshiping one Savior, one Lord, in our hearts. We're undivided, bound by His Spirit, forevermore, undivided.
Marriage. Now that's a subject that's receiving a lot of bad press today. Open up a newspaper or flip through the pages of a magazine, and what do you see? Affairs, abuse, communication problems, conflict, rising divorce statistics. With stories like these grabbing the headlines, it's easy to see why people today tend to lose faith in this institution known as marriage. Today, more than any other time in the history of this nation, the church must play an active role as an advocate on behalf of marriage. The church must hold up and affirm the beauty and worth of marriage. And the church must hold up God's principles for building strong marriages. Is it possible for people to have successful marriages today? I want to invite you to listen closely to some stories. Some stories that have arisen not out of a textbook, but from the pages of real life. These are stories of some 29 couples who for the past 50 years or longer have lived true to their marriage vows. Now that's commitment.
I think that the first thing that I would include would be that a couple, as he said, that they should put God's kingdom and God first in their life. And then second would be that your companion comes next. We have obligations to our children, to our parents, to our fellow man and other Christians. But I think too many times that couples drift away and apart because of the fact that they don't put their companion first.
Commitment, you know, we've had lots of little days that you'd want to give up, but we were committed when we first got married to stay married.
We decided that that's what we would do. We would establish a home.
And the word divorce was never mentioned either then or up to this point.
Murder a few times.
Murder, but we never really got that angry at each other.
Oh, seriously, I guess, you know, people laugh, but Rayford and I have never fought.
Totally committed to each other. We believed when we were married that was it. That was only one time for us, and I always cared about him and he cared about me.
I don't think either of us either thought of it in any other way.
And I think what we went in with marriage with a commitment. And I think that's one of the problems you have today is that people do not have the commitment. You know, they fall out of love easily, and then they forget.
Well, I think that liking each other very much, as well as loving each other, and mutual respect and kindness.
As you might expect, a common faith played a key role in the success of these marriages. Listen closely now as our couples share with us the impact that their faith and church involvement has had on their relationship.
And I do thoroughly believe that a common ground of the church is very important. I just don't see how people can survive and go different ways, because we really are one, and until death do us part. Beforehand, I had no strong religious convictions, and so I went to church with Janice and learned the right way.
A member of the church and has been since she was a little girl. I wasn't. I mean, we got married in Grove Avenue Church of Christ in San Antonio. And then we moved to Midland, and I was baptized in the Southside Church in Midland. I guess I was, 28, something like that.
Somewhere in my middle childhood, I began to pray that when I got married, I wanted to have a Christian husband. And I think God answered that prayer when he gave me Dub.
We were brought up knowing that if we, when and if we started going to church and become Christians, it would be in the Church of Christ. And so when our daughter began to go to grade school, and we weren't attending church at that time, and so she started wanting to go to the Baptist church with some of her young friends. That's when we sat down and took a good look at ourselves and what we needed to do. And that's when we decided we started going to church and were baptized. So that has even brought us closer together.
I think it's very important that they share their faith. I think that is the most important thing.
The fact that we were both committed totally to the same thing, and that was God's kingdom and righteousness. And Sue knew that I would be a preacher when she met me, but the thing that really attracted me, I wanted to do mission work, and I found out that she was willing to go anywhere and do anything to help me, and Sue's never complained about any of the sacrifices that we've had to make through the years. So our relationship has just grown stronger through the years, and so we've been able to handle a few tensions and other things without any problem.
But every time we changed bases or every time we went someplace, the first thing we did was try to find out where the church was, and we always knew where we were going in advance.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you agree on a lot of things, on most things, and you have activities together and go to church together, and I think it builds a stronger marriage if you have a strong faith in God, and we get along most of the time.
Faith has been the basis of our marriage and raising our boys. I don't know how people survive without the church.
While none of our couples hold professional marriage counseling licenses, nevertheless they have much to offer us. Think about it for just a moment. These 29 couples have over 1,500 years of experience in being married. Their marriage journeys have provided them with tremendous insight and wisdom into the nature of marriage. Tonight we not only honor them, but we learn from them as well.
Well, of course, I think that the most important thing is they go into it with the idea that it is a lifetime arrangement. And they don't they don't ever think or voice, at least, divorce or that sort of thing, because from what I've read and seen, when that comes into the picture, you're in trouble.
Well, I know that it works better when both are members of the church. And you have everything in common. And then communication is a very important thing.
Well, we've had a happy marriage in many respects. The old saying is just don't get mad at the same time.
I come from a large family, so did he. So he'll go see his family, and sometime I go see my family. And we have an older son in Singapore, and I've spent 2 months with him. You know, Ben doesn't like to travel, and I do. So we let, we let each other do what they like to do.
Putting the other person first, at least considering the other person. Not that we never disagreed, but we were always able to work out our disagreements with that attitude. generally.
There again, I think I would go back and say, always make your church life your first priority, and a key part of that is just to make certain you're there at every service and nothing will deter you.
And always communicate and be truthful and faithful. And
right.
Well, I'd tell them to quit thinking about themselves and start thinking about their mate, their partner, because selfishness is one of the biggest problems, I think. Is, people say, I'm not happy. Well, so what? Most of us aren't happy 100% of the time. So you try to make someone else happy. That's kind of a secret ingredient, I think. And no marriage is going to be without its problems. You know that. You're either going to struggle with money, or you're going to struggle with family, or struggle with personalities. There's no pattern for it. You just have to have a commitment and determination, I think.
Those two people
When we got married, I never thought about leaving. I mean, that was just not known then. I mean, one girl said that her husband was a coach and she thought she'd leave him. He just had to be gone so much, in high school coach. And I said, well, my husband works there every other night. I hadn't thought about leaving him because he worked. So, I mean, it's an attitude a lot.
Perhaps I think though the home that both of us came from are much alike. And you never heard of divorce, separation. That never enters your mind.
Kind to one another. Young people always want to scream. I know, we did one time. And trust. And he still opens my car door and my doors, and that's neat. And our youngest son doesn't even do that. I tried to teach him that, but and it's just little things. It's not a whole lot of big things. It's all the little things that mount up.
Be forgiving and not try to pick everything to pieces. And it's kind of hard sometimes over the years, but again, I think our children helped us stay closer because we had the same desires for our children. And two, we were brought up to not even consider divorce as an option. We went into marriage that way.
Say for them to get their lives right with God first. God, after all, made marriage, and when we have our marriage, focused on Him. I think we have to have the same focus.
I don't know. My mother taught me to always try to treat other people like I would like to be treated, and I don't know whether that helped.
Usually, we lose our focus. We lose sight of the goals that we started out with. And so it's a matter of refocusing on the goals and, going back and picking up the pieces, putting them together again, and then making the best of it.
Perfect. As you can readily see, these couples didn't just endure marriage for 50 years or longer. No, they really did enjoy each other. They spent time together. They laughed together. They took trips together. Their relationships were not just stable, they were truly satisfying. And so tonight we rejoice with them in their uncommon love for one another.
And I tell you really have to have a sense of humor in life.
Oh, yes.
Yes. We've always felt that way. I mean, if we can't laugh about it, you either laugh or you cry about it. And it's easier to laugh.
We do. We have a great sense of humor, and we laugh together constantly, even now.
We've had lots of good times together, too. We've made sure through the years, even though we've struggled at times, we've made sure through the years that we did a lot of playing. We've taken lots of trips, and we took our kids on trips, and we have done a lot of things through the 50 years to kind of keep ourselves young and rejuvenated when things got dull and
boring. You have to kind of plan things like that to pick yourself up and keep going, and not to think of yourself as being too old to do something.
To me, the most important part of that is having a common belief in God and trust and what He can do for you and what Christ can do for you. So that's really, I think, the most important thing.
Actually, so much of our life has been good, I can't remember the bad or anything that happened that was too much out of line for it.